doesn't resume play, how the Celtics season has ended up. Which player, let's start with this, which player has surprised you the most in a positive way?
I guess I'll start with that, and I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown because I think while Jaylen Brown was a good player coming into this season, he has become a star player, and there's a big difference and a big step up between those two categories in the NBA, and I think Jaylen Brown became a leader of the Celtics on the floor in this particular NBA season. I think joining, Marcus Smart in terms of leaders, true leaders on the Celtics, and he has been, to me, the biggest surprise, the biggest pleasant surprise on the team, and he has really laid the groundwork, I think, for Celtics fans expecting more from him, a lot more going forward.
Good answer. A great answer, though, would have been Daniel Theis.
Oh, you took it from me. No.
Yeah.
I had my monologue ready.
That's good.
All right, how about this?
I'll say Daniel
Theis. Sierra, you cover the team, like you're there in and out, so you go. We'll share the same answer.
I think it's just the expectations that they put on the Celtics and their lack of big man was so low that Daniel Theis kind of gets a little bit of a cop-out because anything he did was going to overexceed those expectations. But defensively, he's been excellent. And I think where he's been most shocking is the way he's been able to contribute offensively. He's obviously improved tremendously offensive rebounding. I think he's developed a bit of a jumper. He can spread the floor. He's been way better than what people expected of him. And he's significantly contributed night in and night out. Now, he's not the answer for Joel Embiid. He's not the answer for Giannis Antetokounmpo, but he's way better than what people gave him credit for before the season.
Yeah, and I think he kind of fits like that mold of teams going a little bit smaller and trying to do more offensively. And of course he's not the answer for Embiid and Giannis, but find me the answer. Like there is no answer for those guys. Right. So I think he's really stepped up his game. Clearly, obviously. Do the Celtics still have a problem at center? Sure, you could say that. I mean, they haven't been healthy there this year. They've lacked size at certain points where they've needed it. But I think he's really stepped in, and he's far exceeded expectations. The other guy, kind of like a little bit of a, probably not your obvious answer. I think Marcus Smart kind of exceeded my expectations in the sense where he like is kind of the backbone of the team, and you can tell he's like the emotional leader. Not taking anything away from like Kemba or those younger guys, but I really think Marcus Smart is like the real behind the scenes leader of that locker room, and I think that's kind of a surprise, I think, to some people, especially when you consider how far Marcus Smart has come, right? I mean, you think about him in college and his what people were saying that this guy, and now he's sort of really turned around completely. He's engaging with the fans on Twitter. I mean, he's really like probably one of the most lovable guys in Boston right now in terms of athletes.
I would agree with that, Jimmy, but I honestly believe that Marcus Smart for the last couple of years anyway has been a leader of that team, the leader in that locker room. And certainly when you talk about all the Kyrie Irving crap that took place around this team last season, it was Marcus Smart really holding that team together the best he could. And he was the guy galvanizing people in that locker room after Kyrie. Kyrie would, go off on tangents and kind of berate players and tell different players what Kyrie expected of them. And then it was Marcus when certain players, young players, let's say a Jason Tatum, might have been frustrated or lost with the Kyrie Irving message, they would turn to Marcus and say, what do you think? And that's why I think, Marcus Smart doesn't get enough credit for being the glue in that locker room.
And I think as a team as a whole, we can all agree that the Celtics have exceeded expectations placed on them in the preseason. What about the team and their game has surprised you guys the most at what they're doing well? And do you think that if the season resumes or they make it a deep run in the playoffs, are they an actual contender?
I think it depends on the matchup, Sierra. I really do. I think if they can let's say somebody upsets the Toronto Raptors in the first round, if that were to happen, unlikely because the Bucks and Raptors would be the top two seeds probably, and they would probably be playing two teams with sub 500 records. But if the Celtics were able to get to the second round, and let's say the Toronto Raptors, they played them, and the Raptors were banged up. I'd say the Celtics have a very good chance because I still think that if the Celtics get into a series with the Milwaukee Bucks, I like Brad Stevens. Don't ask me why, but I just think Brad Stevens would be able to come up with a plan to kind of minimize the impact of not Giannis, but the other players around Giannis, like a Chris Middleton.
I think they're absolutely contenders. I mean, especially coming back from the unknown, right, where everyone's almost back to square one in a sense. These guys have the talent, and I think that was the question going into the season: is this team talented enough? And Jason Tatum took that leap. Jaylen Brown took that leap. Kemba Walker. I always do that with the last name.
Kemba Walker.
Kemba Walker.
A true Bostonian.
I don't know why I do that.
Jimmy, we love you.
Anyways, he slid in seamlessly, and I think that was a big surprise, and they just took off, and the expectations at that point changed, right? So for pretty much the rest of the season, they were teetering on these guys are playing under what we were expecting them, right? Because that preseason expectation was selling them short. So I do think they would be contenders if they do return, and it's the playoffs, and the one thing about the Bucks is there's yes, they have Giannis but they do have, they've got some other guys, Middleton and players like that. But if you can find a way to just limit Giannis, the Celtics are deeper.
See, the other thing I would tell you that has been my biggest takeaway with the Celtics in this 2019-2020 season is sometimes depth means more than top-line talent. And I think that's where the Celtics improved the most. This coming season without Kyrie Irving on the roster. They have been able to call upon many guys on that bench at different times. They haven't been spectacular players, but they've filled roles very well. And that's one thing, whether it was Kyrie Irving or not, that team last year, the 2018-2019 Celtics, could not do. They were not as good as at role.
They weren't a team.
And they were not a team, Jimmy. That's right. And I think this team had not only depth but versatility. And I think if you ask Brad Stevens, that's where the biggest improvement was with this roster.
This Garden Report is brought to you by Raycon Wireless Earbuds. Get the latest and greatest from Raycon. Go to buyraycon.com for 15% off your order. That is buyraycon.com/garden for 15% off your Raycon wireless earbuds. And for all the rest of our Garden Reports and Celtics coverage, head to our website at clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel at CLNS Media.